Hello my loves, and welcome to this video. Today I want to share basically my story of how I came to have a relationship with God. And for those of you who don't know me, I'm Victoria. Hi, I'm a 32-year-old personal trainer, online fitness coach, nutrition coach, and life coach. And yeah, very personable, nice, kind, genuine person is how I would describe myself. Also married, coming on to 3 years in October 2020, depending when you're watching this. So I've just been feeling really called to share this story. So I hope this encourages you somehow. Basically, growing up, I have like a vivid memory of like walking in the halls in elementary school and thinking, as I like overheard other like Christian kids saying like, if you don't believe in God, you're gonna go to hell. I remember always thinking in my mind, well, if there's a God, he'll forgive me for having my doubts. And so I remember that as a kid. Like, my family was Catholic growing up, but we were like those Christmas Catholics that only go to like church on either Easter, Christmas, or like Mother's Day or Father's Day, only like those important dates. Or whenever my dad would offer breakfast, if we go, like he's like, if you go to church, you can go to breakfast, but we wouldn't get breakfast out if we didn't go to church. So, but besides that, there wasn't really any teachings at home that I remember. And yeah, it just really, like when I would go to church, it just felt more like a ritual. Like I would stand up, get down on my knees, stand up, sing a song, but it just like, like I couldn't tell you what they were talking about. Like I have no idea, I do not remember. But anyways, fast forward to when I was like 17, I decided to start taking these like Catholicism classes with or catechism, I think that's what they call them, with my sister. So we started going to these catechism classes and really loved the teacher. She was really, awesome, because at that time, me and my sister were just going through it. Like I had a miscarriage when I was 15, a miscarriage when I was, I think, 17. So that might have been around that same time, I'm not sure. So we were, I don't know what you would say about us at that time. But we were going through it, and she was very understanding, super nice. I wish I remembered her name. She was very kind, and she was young. But anyways, like I felt like those classes were like me saying, like, giving God a chance, like, okay, let me see. I want to feel like everybody else feels. I want to believe, but it just still didn't make sense to me. But I went through the classes, and yeah, it just didn't click. So at that point, that was kind of like me just being like, okay, well, I guess there isn't a God. If there is, I don't know. Like that was just basically me going my own way at that point. So I graduated high school early, moved out on my own, or with a boyfriend, and then me and that boyfriend broke up. And basically, when we broke up, that was when I really started partying heavily, most nights of the week, except for like 2 days. I think it was like every day except for Monday and Wednesday. Pretty much every day but Monday and Wednesday I went out. Sometimes, I'd come home and wouldn't remember how I got home. A lot of times I would overdraft my bank account and like, in order to pay for myself to like drink the way I wanted and party the way I wanted to. That basically like continued for like years. I was just partying a lot, drinking a lot, dating different guys. Like my relationships usually expired after like 2 months. I was just like, what I noticed was there was just like this hole, like this void, and I was trying to fill it. In hindsight, this is what I think I was doing. I was trying to fill this void with alcohol, with men, and when I wasn't satisfied, like with the, boyfriend, I would dump him and be like, okay, there must be somebody else because this is just not working. So I would say, yeah, like my relationships with guys were not healthy. They weren't good relationships. So I started kind of being resentful of men. I was just like, men are just like bound to disappoint you. That was kind of my perspective. But yeah, so I guess fast forward a few years to, I think when I was about 20 was when the first time I got a DWI. But they didn't arrest me. They let my dad come get me, which was, you know, definitely a blessing, but also I didn't learn anything. My dad came and picked me up, and he was like they towed my car, but they let my dad come pick me up. And I was like ranting about how pissed off I was that they, excuse my language, but I was like ranting about how pissed off I was that they like wouldn't let someone else drive my car back. And I was just like, and just like fell forward, like passed out mid-sentence. And the only thing that was holding me up was a seatbelt. And my dad was just like after that, you know, it just really scared him. He was just like, Alex, which is what he called me. My middle name is Alexandra. He was like, if you need a ride, like call me. I'd rather lose sleep than lose my daughter. But basically I still kept partying. And I ended up getting pulled over again, this time I was passed out at a red light. And I'm not like gloating about this. I'm just like telling you how ridiculous this was, how ridiculous I was. So I passed out at the red light, and the people at like the 7-Eleven at that little intersection like called the police. And so next thing I know, I'm waking up and I just see like, you know, the sirens behind my car. And again, they gave me a break. Or now, you know, like that's privilege, you know, of being a lighter complected woman. I don't know, but I was blessed enough that they let me call my dad, and they actually let my dad's wife drive my car home. And yeah, my dad drove me home in his car or something like that. And so again, that was like the second time like I get pulled over, still don't get arrested. I think it's important to say now that in between this time, like at one point I was in a relationship for I think like 2 years, and it revolved around a lot of partying, a lot of drinking, a lot of smoking marijuana. So I'm not, you know, just because we were together for 2 years doesn't mean it was like a healthy relationship. But he him and his friend like had an intervention with me, and just basically was just like, how are you planning on like drinking tonight? And I'm just like, I would just plan on getting a little bit buzzed, you know? And then that kind of like led into like a full on intervention, and just, I guess, telling me about myself. And I just like get so mad and like storm out of the car and like start walking down the street, so upset. But yeah, it still like didn't click. So, you know, fast forward, who knows how many years. Life's just like a blur at that point. I also still had a stable job. I was working at the pharmacy, but sometimes at the pharmacy, like when I'd show up to work, I'd be hungover. Sometimes I'd end up in the back of the pharmacy by the wall, just like coming in and out of consciousness. Like that's just how much I was drinking. Like I didn't know how to drink moderately. Most of the time, like if it was a cup like this, the alcohol would be like up to here. And then there would just be like a splash of something to give it color, is what I would used to say. Today's actually, I think 8 months since I haven't had any alcohol, so woo! But anyways, finally, I ended up really getting in trouble. Me and a friend had went out one night, basically like, we're talking to a couple guys. We thought we were like, let's just ditch these guys. And we just assumed that they were like gonna pay for our drinks. And anyways, we just like took off. And then the officer that was at the bar at the time followed us out to the car. And I was just like, get in the car. And like yelling at my friend, like, and she has no recollection of this. But anyway, so I tell her to get in the car. I like try to irk out of there, my Saturn Ion, like pull out really fast. The cop like hits my car with his baton. He's just like, stop. stop. And yeah, I just like hightail it onto the highway, and I'm like, I'm going home. But yeah, so apparently the radio is a lot faster than my Saturn Ion, and so cop pulls me over, and yeah, there's like 8 cop cars behind us at that point when we got arrested. So I finally got arrested for drinking and driving, which was well deserved. I mean, it was the wake-up call that I needed. But still, like, so at that point, like, I got arrested, had to go, you know, get a lawyer. Oh my gosh, I mean, it cost like $10,000 throughout the whole ordeal. Like, it was so expensive. Right, so the cop's like, well, we're gonna plead, I think they said guilty, and he was like, because you have an alcohol problem, and we're gonna say you need, you know, like, recovery. And I'm just like, what? I thought you were supposed to fight for me. I don't have a problem. Oh my gosh. And it's just crazy how blind I was. But so I end up getting convicted, and I am sentenced to 18 months of probation, 40 hours of community service. I had to have a breathalyzer in my car, so every time I like wanted to start my car, I had to blow in it. And then I'm sure I had to pay some more fines. But anyway, so that happened, and I start to do community service at an animal shelter where I had rescued my dog, the Balch Springs Animal Shelter. And so I go there and I hear, like, you know, one of the guy who works there, like, I don't know what you'd call him, but the guy who worked there and then another guy who was doing community service, like, they were just like constantly talking about like God and Jesus and faith and a lot about God. And I'm just like sitting there so like pessimistic and so irritated. One day, like, after, you know, I had been around them a few times, I was just like, why do you believe that? Like, so irritated. So I finally like said something. And he was like, well, why don't you? And I was like, well, I refuse to worship a man. That's why. Because I was just so burnt by men. I was like, I refuse to worship a man. And the guy said to me, well, that's a stupid reason to go to hell. And I was just so like taken back. But the next thing I know, like, he basically starts telling me that void that I'm trying to fill, like with alcohol, with partying, is God missing from my life. And whew, I was like bawling. Like, I can't tell you exactly what he said, but that was like the gist of it. And all I know is I was like crying my eyes out. And then the next day, or the next time I went to go do community service, he brought me like his wife's Bible. I started listening to like the Bible app. I started listening to sermons. And I just like, it just started feeling like that void was starting to go away. For the first time, I was actually able to quit drinking. So I was able to quit drinking, and I started going to like boxing classes. I hired a boxing trainer because my biological father was a boxer, and so my mom was like, you would be a natural, but I was always just too hungover to like get up and go work out. So that's the beginning of my story. I'm gonna do a part 2 and share the next part. So basically at this point I start to believe. But yeah, I wanted to share the next part and like what that journey started looking like after. So yeah, I hope you enjoyed this story of just how much of a hot mess I used to be. And just know that there's hope. And if you have that void in your heart, I just pray that you would just start opening your mind up to the chance and the belief that there is a higher power, there is a God who loves you and cares for you and wants to have a relationship with you. Yeah, thanks for watching.